Good afternoon, Bitcoin Amsterdam again. Well, this is really one of the, if not the highlight of the conference. And it's great to have you all here. These guys really need no further introduction. I'm very proud to have them here in Amsterdam, also as investors in Treasury and on my advisory board. Guys, give a huge round of applause to Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss. Thanks, man. So, guys, amazing to have you here. Thank you again. And first time in Amsterdam, really, and it's almost symbolic to have you here. I think some people would like to know Winklevoss. Actually, Winkel means shop in Dutch. What do you know about your heritage from here?
So we've traced it back to Germany, but I think a lot of people think we're actually Dutch. So we get confused as Dutch a lot. So it's cool to be here and visit the country. The Germans say we're Dutch. The Dutch say we're German. Nobody wants us, but America took us. The Bitcoiners do, though. Bitcoiners do, yeah.
Bitcoin. There we go. Bitcoin first.
But yeah, I think it translates to a lot of these names are very literal. So Winkel is corner store, and I think Voss is fox or businessman. So because we're shopkeepers on a corner back in the day.
There we go. And not to be of Gemini. So you've had an amazing week. Gemini had its first results. You made a big announcement yesterday of another treasury company. You were in the Cantor Conference Miami. You're here now. Who knows what next? Maybe good to give the audience a bit of an idea how this year has come together. You've been in the space for such a long time, real Bitcoin OGs. Take us where we end up here today.
Yeah, so we found Bitcoin in the summer of 2012. We weren't looking for the next investment, but we were on vacation in Ibiza in an island, and some guy said, "Hey, have you guys thought about Bitcoin?" And we're like, "No." And we started to learn more about it and got super excited and started buying. And when we first bought our first Bitcoin, it was under $10 a coin. So fast forward to today, we've added a few more zeros onto the price of Bitcoin, but we still think it's very early. And the reason being is that we think Bitcoin is digital gold. So if you take a gold framework for Bitcoin, you take the market cap of gold, divide it by 21 million coins, and you get to about $1 million a coin conservatively. So we think we're 1/10 of the way there. So we're going to put on a few more zeros between now and then. So the thesis is still playing out, and we're only 1/10 of the way there. And we started Gemini in 2014 to basically help people buy and store Bitcoin in a really easy manner and to onboard people into the space. And we launched in 2015, and we've been building since then. We're now live in the Netherlands. So if you sign up with the code AMS15 and trade 100 euros, you'll get 15 euros for free if you want to use Gemini.
Amazing.
So this year in particular, it's been quite a whirlwind in a good way. So before the election, the previous administration attacked our industry in America for 4 years at least. So it was a crypto winter, but there was also a war on crypto. So everything changed when President Donald Trump was elected in November, just over a year ago. And we had the first ever crypto summit at the White House. And we all remarked, we said a year ago, we were more likely to end up in the jailhouse than the White House. And so it was quite surreal to be in the White House engaging with this administration on crypto, but everything changed. So the war on crypto ended. We were able to take Gemini public in September. That never would have been possible with Gary Gensler and the previous SEC regime. And so it's been an amazing year. The crypto winter, you're not sleeping because you're trying to survive. And then the crypto summer, you're not sleeping because you're thriving. And you live on a plane in Zoom, and we were in Miami for a conference, the Cantor conference. Now we're here, so you don't sleep for different reasons, but it's all good reasons.
Absolutely. And obviously the US, there was a massive tailwind and then massive change, which has really been great for the industry. what are your observations? You're building a business in Europe with Gemini. What are your observations on Europe, on political landscape, regulation? What can we learn? Anything that could sort of help us get there as well in a way, right? It's all about adoption, increasing adoption, and we can certainly use some tailwinds here too.
Right.
You want to kick off?
So Europe got some things right with MiCA in a big way, and so it's like a federal framework for crypto, spot crypto in all of Europe. We got our MiCA license this summer, and also got a MiFIN license. So we have perpetuals and spot trading in all of Europe. So they beat the U.S. to the regulatory federal path. But I think that generally speaking, like you always need more access to Bitcoin. And that's the whole thesis behind Treasury and what we're excited about trying to build the largest Treasury company in Europe so people can access this incredible asset. Bitcoin was the best performing asset the last decade and will be, we believe, for the next decade to come, but it's still hard to access even though we've been at it for many years. And while some people can come to Gemini, others have brokerage accounts, but they can't buy ETFs. And so they need some sort of vehicle or ability to gain investment access. And that's really, that's been the mission of Gemini, is giving people access to Bitcoin. And that's also the mission of Treasury. And there's more work to be done.
That's
But
great.
yeah, we want to bring Bitcoin, which is the greatest financial innovation of the last century, back to the home of modern finance. Amsterdam, the Netherlands, is the home of the stock company, the stock market, so the golden age. And so we want to bring back the digital golden age and bring Bitcoin home to Europe.
Right. Yeah.
Fantastic.
I mean, if you think about it, U.S. capital markets all basically draws back to the financial innovation that happened in this country many hundreds of years ago. It's pretty remarkable. So we really want to make Bitcoin great here.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
No, it's great. Absolutely great. We're all very grateful for that because it's absolutely true, right? Bitcoin, we see Bitcoin as the first layer of where we're going from here on, right?
Yeah.
And there's obviously the whole ecosystem that can be built on top of that, right?
Right.
Yeah, and I think it's really helpful to step back and look at the history of money or the history of finance, and you realize that a lot of these things that you took for granted didn't always exist. Money wasn't always green pieces of paper. It was precious metals. Before that, it was shells and whatnot. And stock companies didn't exist. That was an innovation. And then people wanted to trade their stock. So they invented this marketplace to do that. That was an innovation. And so you look at money as this technology that's always being innovated on and improved over its, let's say, 10,000-year history. Then cryptocurrency or Bitcoin was that latest breakthrough. You had you had precious metals, then paper backed by precious metals, then just floating paper, and all of a sudden enter Satoshi Nakamoto with a Bitcoin white paper. So when you look at that timeline or the history of it, you understand that helps me feel that why Bitcoin is very inevitable in a way. It was always a when, not an if. And so that's how I like to view cryptocurrency. And then you just see these other iterations happen as well. People start innovating with Bitcoin was proof of work, Ethereum programmability, Zcash, privacy. So it's this constant iteration. It's happening.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But if you think about it, these types of innovations in finance, they don't happen that often. I mean, this might be, this is very much probably a once in a lifetime sort of Cambrian explosion of new development. You have Bitcoin that basically proved out proof of work and created digital scarcity out of ones and zeros that happened only, a little over a decade ago. And then that could be, the substrate for the next 500 years. Similar to how like joint stock companies are still very relevant and important and will be probably for many hundreds of years, if not thousands to come. So this is a very special moment in the history of finance if you sort of zoom out and look at the timeline.
Yeah. Kind of interesting because I've heard you say in the past that money is sort of the true social network, which you know all about, and
It's the greatest social network
yeah,
of
and
all.
and it's kind of ironic because in a way Bitcoin is trustless, right? And how do you think about it as you've seen sort of the community grow? You were an OG in the early days, and it's sort of all little pockets and sort of rebels, and we've gone to these kind of big conferences. How do you see that space developing and going from here?
So when we gave the keynote at the Bitcoin 2013 conference, there was probably 100 people in total. And today, I mean, I don't know how many thousands of people are here. And I think the Bitcoin Vegas conference had 250,000 people come through the weekend last spring. So it's grown remarkably. But a lot of the OGs that were there earlier are still there today. You take someone like Zuko, who's a founder of Zcash, but he's been in the space. He's been a cypherpunk since the 90s. Balaji, he's been there. He's one of the first people we met in the Bitcoiners in the space. So in some ways, a lot of things have changed, but also a lot of things haven't changed. And the thesis hasn't changed around Bitcoin. Gold 2.0, that will be the thesis from here on out.
Gotcha.
Right. And so Gold 2.0, people love, or what's price predictions. Our framework is the Gold 2.0 framework that if Bitcoin is Gold 2.0, then it has to disrupt gold. It has to disrupt the market cap of gold. And when you do that quick math, that indicates a price per Bitcoin of $1 million per Bitcoin in the future at a minimum. And so we think Bitcoin is going to become the global reserve currency for the world eventually. And we think it's just started. If it's going to be over $1 million a coin and it's about 100,000 today, well, that's a 10x from here. So we're maybe in the bottom, to use an American sports analogy, maybe the bottom of the first inning of American baseball game.
Yeah, that's a question. You often meet Bitcoiners and they're like, oh, I got in 13 or 14 and it rallied 10 times and I sold. Many people had a Bitcoin at some point, but then sold again. You've always had this massive conviction from the beginning, right? Is that, is it still in the same? Is it still when you grow? Because you're still saying, it can go 10 from here and it's still going to be, we're still early. How has that changed over time? Or has it been the same from the moment it hit you?
I mean, so the gold framework has always been the same. I think you could pull up clips of us on CNBC in maybe 2015 or 2014 or 13 saying the exact same thing. So until it disrupts gold, you have to be a hodler. And then when it does, you'll still be a hodler. But we're patient. We have our conviction. We have our idea. And so we hodl on. And I think it's important to almost be simple about it, right? And keep it simple. A lot of people try and trade around it, and they miss out on these huge gains. Unless you are a professional market maker or trader or risk neutral kind of trader, and that's what you do, you're better off just buying and watching it grow over time.
Yeah. And I think that, I don't know, maybe it comes a little bit from our time as rowers. We often say some of the best lessons in life we learned at the boathouse, and they had little to do with rowing. And sort of goal setting, working day in, day out. I mean, rowing's a game of millimeters, inches, and you're just trying to go a little bit faster with every stroke, and you're doing a very repetitive motion. We rowed for 15 years, and you just get a little bit better every day, and you compound, and before you know it, you might be on the Olympic starting line. But it takes 15 years to sort of get there or at that world-class level. So when we build a thesis around Bitcoin and it hasn't really played out yet, we're 1/10 of the way there. Well, we've got to keep rowing in the right direction and keep working towards that goal. To sort of step away, you'd miss out on a very magical and exciting journey. And so I think Bitcoin's sort of a vehicle for curiosity and where can this go?
Yeah.
And we're used to just, I guess, putting our heads down for many years at a time and being misunderstood, and people say, "Oh, you're crazy. What are you doing? You're pulling a piece of wood going backwards.
Yeah.
What good is that?" Right?
Right.
And yet it's a very exciting, fulfilling sport, and we loved it. And I think the same with Bitcoin. It's like, it's just early.
Fantastic. Yeah. And maybe while we're on that, Terry, maybe can you talk a little bit about what you think about the market right now, right? The market is, we've had, in essence, Bitcoin is flat this year almost, right? We're still having a lot of positive developments in the space. Bitcoin Treasury companies, there's more strategic Bitcoin reserves. We'll hear about that later, actually. So what is your view on sort of maybe the last couple of months of the year, but also then into next year?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, Bitcoin has definitely been a little bit boring lately. It almost feels like it's resting up and getting ready for some big surge. It's always hard to predict those moments, but they're gonna happen. And so just be patient. But I'm not sure exactly what the catalyst will be if the Fed starts dropping rates more aggressively, if there's some other geopolitical situation. But I have faith that it's always going to go up, and it's going to go up 10x from here at a minimum. And it's the same feeling, that question's been asked for the first 10 years, when the price was, $100, $1,000. During COVID, it's very cyclical, as everyone knows. It hit a 20K ceiling, maybe it went higher. And then during COVID, it crashed down to $3,800 a Bitcoin. And then it totally ripped towards the latter half of COVID. So it's hard to predict these things, but when you zoom out, it's always going up. And so you got to be patient. And I think patience is super important here. We haven't been doing this for that long. It's been like just over a decade. It's just not that much time. And if you think back, it's important to appreciate what we've accomplished. We've got governments really upset at us. They tried to attack us. We helped vote in a new president because 50 million crypto hodlers in the U.S. were attacked. And so we're a big coalition and we're powerful and we've achieved a lot. We have companies that are now public. We've taken Gemini public. We started building that for since 2014 in response to Mt. Gox. I don't know if anyone has experiences trading Bitcoin on Mt. Gox, but it was very sketchy, let's say. You would get order acts, you'd place an order, and maybe a minute or two later, you would know if it went through. The site would brown out for 12 hours at a time. So it was a very different experience than trading Bitcoin or buying Bitcoin on Gemini. So we've covered tremendous ground in a decade, and we feel like we're just getting started. Bitcoin's just getting started. Treasury's just getting started. Gemini's just getting started. And we're going to be doing this for decades to come, God willing. And so we often say that in crypto, or Bitcoin and crypto, time, it's like dog years, a day is a week is a month is like a year in non-Bitcoin crypto world. And certainly that is the case, but it's easy to lose perspective on how far we've come, but also at the same time, it's really early.
Yeah, I mean, to think that we've created trillions of dollars of value voluntarily.
Yeah.
People just voluntarily say, hey, I believe in this, I'm going to buy it. They're not being forced or coerced into doing that. That's a pretty incredible thing.
Yeah.
Right. This is all peaceful. There's no gun to someone's head that says you must buy Bitcoin, right? People have to own dollars in the US because they have to pay their taxes in dollars. If you're a merchant, you have to accept dollars. That is not the case. There's no US Army and Navy forcing Bitcoin. This is a peaceful revolution. This is emergent money. This is sound money. It's the product of a free market, which is always the best money, and free markets are always the best markets. So it's quite amazing. And it all started with a white paper and some mailing lists and people just being excited about this idea of decentralized money and this movement of the separation of money and state. And that, we go back to the separation of church and state, or the printing press, the internet. That's how momentous that white paper was. It showed we can decentralize money, we can take it out of the purview or jurisdiction of the state, and make it in the free market for all of us to create money and decide what we think money is. And that's a huge paradigm shift in the world, just like the printing press was a huge shift, just like the internet was as well. And with the white paper gives us the blueprint to decentralize anything, not just gold, not just money, but finance into DeFi and much more. So it's pretty exciting, and I think it's just starting.
100%. And maybe go to parallel development. As mentioned, treasuries are a big theme, and you guys have been very active in it. Big announcement yesterday from a new treasury on Nasdaq in the US called Cypherpunks. Would love to hear more, Cameron, about that, and I'm also glad to be involved with that one. But great to hear your view and your vision behind what's happening there.
Great. So Cypherpunks is starting out as a DApp for Zcash. And again, buying Zcash is not easy. You can buy it on Gemini, but there's just not a lot of places to buy it outside of Gemini. So we're trying to give people access through an equity wrapper. And then over time, investing in privacy technologies and technologies that promote self-sovereignty. That's the mission, really based on the Cypherpunk manifesto that was written in 1993 by Eric Hughes. And I highly recommend everybody read it, because when you read it, you're like, whoa, this feels so relevant today. And yet it was written about 30 years ago. And we feel important of that mission and building that and fostering it.
And maybe step back for people who don't know Zcash. Maybe just the 10 seconds on what. Yeah.
So Zcash is a fork of Bitcoin, so it has the same tokenomics. There will only be 21 million Zcash, just like there will only be 21 million Bitcoin. It's totally fixed, but it's privacy through zero knowledge proofs cryptography. So it's basically encrypted Bitcoin. And when we think about Bitcoin storing your value there, it's very transparent, the Bitcoin blockchain. So fine to store your value there, but maybe if you want to transact or spend your value, you may want to do that in Zcash, shielded with privacy. So we think the two coins go hand in hand. They're very similar. Obviously, like I said before, Zcash is a fork of Bitcoin, and we're big believers in both. And Cypherpunk is a DApp we launched dedicated to privacy and self-sovereignty, starting with private money and acquiring Zcash. And it trades, the ticker is CYPH, Cyph. And we went live for trading yesterday, and we're up quite a bit. I'm not sure what percentage it was, but
Good launch.
yeah, a couple 100% up.
Yeah.
I think it was the highest appreciating stock yesterday and the most traded stock yesterday on NASDAQ. So good opening day debut.
Fantastic. And if you look on X, there's quite a bit of debate between Bitcoin, called Bitcoin OGs or maxis, and Zcash. Maybe it'd be great for you guys to shine a bit of light on that, right? Because there's, as we know, Bitcoiners love sort of fighting on different things, something very specific, can get a bit emotional sometimes. And this is one debate that's kind of raging a little bit right now. You guys obviously have great relationships with Balaji and Naval and Zuko and some of those guys. And very good,
Yeah.
be good to sort of get some sort of adult
Yeah.
supervision in a debate.
Yeah, I mean, all the people that love Zcash also love Bitcoin, and they're OGs in Bitcoin.
And there were some of the first people we met in Bitcoin in 2012. I mean, the Bitcoin community in 2012 was 10 people, like a few people here and there. Like in Silicon Valley, you could fill a room of maybe 20 people who believed in it and understood it. That was it. And those same people were excited about Bitcoin, saying the same things we're saying today back then, are also the same people excited about Zcash today.
Right.
And so the financial crisis of 2008, 2009 catalyzed Bitcoin. It was in the Genesis block, Chancellor on the brink of second bailout. And we think very much AI is going to catalyze Zcash and privacy and the need for privacy and people's awareness that they actually don't have much of it and they need to get it back.
But we think they go hand in hand. So Bitcoin you can use to store your value, and Zcash to move and transact your value. Think of Zcash as encrypted Bitcoin or digital cash. And you really want to have both. And we like both. It's not one or the other, in our opinion.
Yeah,
Right.
obviously Bitcoin's got a huge first mover advantage, and I don't think they're competing, right? They're very complementary, but it's got a 10-year track record, and it's a huge market cap. Zcash is obviously very nascent, but it's tackling a really important problem of privacy, especially in the age of AI.
Yeah. Which is actually another good segue into another probably interesting theme, right? We hear a lot about AI is clearly the sort of biggest thing that happened to our society in the last couple of years, and in terms of investment and developments there. In the meantime, crypto's been going for longer, Bitcoin's been going for longer and steadily growing. And sort of a question I get a lot at least is where do you see the two intersect? Where do you see the two compete? Where do you see the two synergize? They're inevitably the biggest trends of this sort of digital century and going forward. Maybe.
Yeah, so if Bitcoin created digital scarcity with ones and zeros, AI creates digital abundance. And so in some ways, you need crypto just to authenticate going forward. But also the Bitcoin blockchain is quite open. And with AI, it sort of supercharges your ability to just see the flow of funds and transactions. So I think it's very important to have shielded money if you want to transact and financial privacy.
Right.
I mean, one way I think about it is AI puts intelligence in your pocket. Bitcoin puts digital gold or a bank in your pocket. X made everyone a publisher, so media in your pocket. And so I mean, crypto, we think of it as, you and I buying Bitcoin or crypto, but it's really not money for humans, it's money for AI. AI is not going to show up to a JP Morgan and open a bank account or use a credit card or ACH or wire. It's going to plug into a protocol. And so I like to think of like when Elon Musk gets us to Mars, like what's the money going to be? It's obviously going to be crypto. And so these two technologies are they're made for each other. They haven't quite converged, and maybe that will be the next catalyst. But agents will trade value, and we think one day we'll have more agentic customers than human customers at Gemini.
And we used to say that we thought we'd have more machine customers than people, even, when we were starting 10 years ago. And then you see, obviously, the robots and humanoids being built by Tesla, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, now I get it.
Right.
It's really money for robots.
Right. And so when a Tesla self-driving car wants to pass another car that's in front of them, they'll send them a stable coin, let's say, to get out of the way. I'm in a rush. Like, here's $1 or whatever, $5. Move to the side. I'm going to go through. And also, cryptos can authenticate AI. Like, how do you know you're talking to someone who you're talking to on Zoom, right? And so using cryptographic techniques to authenticate, how do you know that you're getting an official message from a government channel? So crypto authenticates AI, and it makes it possible to understand like who's who and what's happening. And so, I think they're super important technologies, and it's just beginning for both of them.
Yeah, 100%. And it brings me like you guys obviously have Winklevoss Capital, your family office. I think you have more than 200 investments. Obviously, the beauty of that firm is that there's no requirement to return capital to investors. There's a very, very long time horizon, just like you invest in Bitcoin, invest in Bitcoin treasuries. What are some of the major themes you're seeing there, right? Because it's really your way of, I guess, contributing to value, society, to what you're seeing. So very curious to see what the themes are. given that, frankly, you've had social networks, right? You had Bitcoin, right? You're seeing these things now. I think the audience would love to hear what you're seeing in terms of themes.
Yeah, so a big focus is crypto, space, AI, defense tech. Those are sort of the big verticals we're focused on right now. But we definitely have our entire bodies in the crypto game, not just our skin in the game. As founders and operators of Gemini, as founders of Cypherpunk DAT and our investment in Treasury. So we're sort of all in on crypto, have been for a decade and will be hopefully for many decades to come, and really just building out this frontier of money, new money, decentralization, non-governmental money. I think it's just very important for human prosperity, liberty, and freedom, giving people more choice, independence.
Yeah, I mean, space is obviously a really exciting frontier, and I love drawing parallels back to history. It's almost like the Dutch East India Company, and they're sort of setting sail, but they haven't landed on the New World yet, or Christopher Columbus hasn't hit America yet. And I think that point is when we get humans to Mars, and then there's this whole economy back and forth. So it's just another frontier. I think we're super attracted to the frontier of money, whether that's Bitcoin, crypto, Zcash, whatnot. Just any frontier. We want to be building there. We want to be investing there. And we want to be spending our time thinking and talking to people about ideas around it. It's really exciting. Maybe in the 19th century, early 19th century, we'd be really into railroads or steamships at some point. But definitely that frontier now is Bitcoin, and it's early.
And what are some of the craziest ideas you've seen? Maybe you didn't fund it, but what are some of the craziest ideas you've seen on these frontiers from entrepreneurs? Anything that springs to mind?
I couldn't quite hear that.
What are some of the craziest ideas you've seen from entrepreneurs? Like, I'm sure you've seen many ideas of.
Oh, right. So the idea that we talk about that a lot of people don't, or makes their heads explode is this idea that precious metals on Earth are actually not that precious and scarce in the universe. And so we think that in the future, people will be mining asteroids, and there will be gold there and silver and many precious metals. So gold won't be scarce, is not scarce actually in the universe. It may be scarce on planet Earth, but it's not in the universe. More reason to own Bitcoin, which will always be fixed, no matter how many asteroids we mine. We're never going to find Bitcoin up there. So that supply is never going to get bigger. But a lot of people think that's way too sci-fi, that's way too far-fetched, which makes me think we're onto something, actually. Yeah. Right. That's an idea that I actually think is going to happen sooner than people think. And I think it totally changes the game for Bitcoin, because all of a sudden, yeah.
Right. I mean, gold is as plentiful as sand in our galaxy. It's just a matter of time. And if the price of gold goes up, you just mine more gold. So the supply expands with demand. The supply of Bitcoin is truly fixed. It does not expand, and the same is true for Zcash. And that's a big light bulb for a lot of people. I think people don't quite realize that until they do, and then you can't sort of unsee it, and you realize, okay, this is truly fixed. And I think there's something like 40 million millionaires around the globe, but there's only 21 million Bitcoin. So they each won't be able to own even one Bitcoin when it's all said and done. So it's really fixed, and I think that's a big aha moment for people to wrap their head around.
Saylor's right about everything he says. I can't believe people are selling me their Bitcoin.
So we wrote the case for $500,000 Bitcoin in August of 2020, because back then the market cap of gold was lower. So you divide 21 million Bitcoin into the market cap gold at that point in time, you get $500,000 a coin. That's about when Michael Saylor started smash buying. in August of 20, that summer, and the price of Bitcoin was $12,000 a coin. And I think people probably thought he was crazy then. And here we are at $100,000 Bitcoin, and I don't know how many 100 billion of Bitcoin in MicroStrategy. And there's still people who probably think he's crazy, and we're gonna find out. But I think
Exactly.
he's more right,
Yeah.
more correct. So.
Still early. Great. I want to switch gears a little bit. We got to know each other through restructuring. As always like to say is in restructurings you really get to know people. You get to know who you can trust, how people behave under stress, when you're on the different side of the table, all of that. And we're clearly still sitting here today. But one thing that I'd love you to sort of share with the audience is some of your I guess some of your values in life, right? You're still here. You're always pushing for new ideas, new initiatives, and always looking for new things. So what are some of the things you would tell people here in the audience, whether it's young entrepreneurs, parents with young kids or kids, anyone? What are some of the life lessons you would give to the audience? Maybe you want to kick it off, Tyler.
Yeah. So, I mean, we love building. We love being on the frontier. So a lot of people, they're doing stuff to maybe retire or do something else, right? They're like, I want to work, make a certain amount of uh, money to then do something else. But I just want to be here doing what I'm doing. Like, this is the destination, and this is the thing I'm going to keep doing. So if you're like at this conference to not be here eventually, this is probably not your passion or what you should be doing. But you know, building new ideas, we're super curious about all of that stuff. Um, is meaningful to us. It gives us meaning. Working, being productive, building stuff, trying to fix money, trying to invest in folks doing cool stuff. So that just excites us, and that is super meaningful. And you want meaning in life. You want to be working on hard problems and applying yourself. So that's what we're here to do. I think is to make a mark.
Yeah, I think curiosity is a big. I don't know if it's a value or a trait or how you quantify it, but we're just very curious about things. And I think when we saw Bitcoin, we were just really curious about, oh yeah, what is money and why doesn't it work like your email 24/7, 365? It should. It's just information. It's ones and zeros, and yet it doesn't work. And all forms of money that we used before Bitcoin sort of predated the internet, and that didn't make a lot of sense. So I think by just asking those questions and having an open mind, we call beginner's mind that concept, or first principles, and letting that curiosity just pull you and drive you to learn more. And I think that's a big part of our how we approach things, and get excited. I think also our father is an entrepreneur. He built a software company in the 90s, and he was working with computers in graduate school in the 60s. I think one of his professors said, if you don't get math and computer science, you'll be obsolete. And this was in the 60s, and that really scared him. And so he started taking a lot of computer science courses, and he was programming on these large mainframes with punch cards. There wasn't even monitors back then, and writing software and then building companies. And so he was an entrepreneur, a risk taker. And I think growing up in that household, you just absorb that. Doesn't even feel risky to put millions of dollars into Bitcoin in 2012. It feels like risky actually not to do that, because you're going to miss out on the next wave. So I think we see risk very differently. We see risk as opportunity. And if you don't have enough risk, you probably don't have a big enough opportunity in front of you. If you're not being misunderstood or people don't think you're crazy, then you're probably not doing something innovative. It's probably, pretty boring, and straightforward. So I think a lot of that has a lot to do with it. And then, as I mentioned, our days rowing, right? You have to intellectualize and get excited about getting a little bit better at the sport and pushing yourself. and nobody really cares other than you, by and large, right? There's no championship ring. I mean, there's the Olympics, of course, but like by and large, it's a amateur sport, right? You're not getting paid. You're actually losing money to row, basically opportunity costs, and yet you get to push yourself and see how far you can push the limits. And you're with great people, training and pushing yourselves together, and going to the line with people and battle tested, which reminds me of the restructuring that we did. You get to know someone when you train with them and you row with them, you get to really know them. And the same as, through a restructuring in a different context, but similarly. And if you're trying to pick your founder, you should probably go through a restructuring. I know that's not realistic, but then you really understand who your founder is and what they're like under pressure, right, under fire. What are their values? It's the financial equivalent of going rock climbing with someone. That's like the old adage, right? Who would you go rock climbing with? Okay, if you trust them, then you might want to start a company with them if you have a good idea. And I think
That's why I hired Cameron. Yeah, to start Gemini. But
trust variable out, right?
I mean, be curious, be a lifelong learner, learn how to take risks, be a high agency person. Realize that you can just go do that thing that you want to do. And so, take action, be a man of action. And it's okay to be disliked, be disagreeable, because everybody who got Bitcoin early was ridiculed and laughed at. So if that's not happening to you, you're probably not on the frontier, and your idea is probably not innovative enough. This is not scaring people, or they're not calling you crazy. And so the ability to be misunderstood, called crazy, piss people off, be disagreeable, piss off governments, politicians, that's like a superhero strength, because that's how we got here. That's how you build Bitcoin.
Yeah, there's the
Yeah. So all those things, and is it nature, nurture? I think you can learn that stuff. A lot of it.
Yeah, and I think we're in this age where you've never had more leverage. Like somebody will create $1 billion startup out of their dorm room, out of a garage, like in a very, very short period of time, right? Using AI and agents, and you don't even need like a lot of 10xers. You can basically 100x yourself with AI and a lot of the things that are being built right now. So it's a very exciting time. And there's that Gandhi quote that goes, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. And that's actually the quote that we built our entire presentation at Bitcoin 2013 around, describing this new technology, Bitcoin, and how it was being treated. And guess what? We were right. That was
They
probably
did fight us.
Yeah, they just got
we
done
won.
fighting with us, and we won. And I think in 2013 we were in the ignore / laugh phase, and now look who's laughing now. So I think all technology does go through that arc and that experience. And I think Treasury companies went through that. I think Michael Saylor went through that for years, until people started to say, "Oh, wait a second, I get it." But he went through a lot of that, and Bitcoin's gone through that. So you need to be, feeling and hearing some of that if you're innovating. So I think, build and take agency and do things. And I think it's never been a greater time for that.
100%. That's great. Thank you guys. It's amazing. It's all about that conviction, and we see it every day with you guys. So Cameron and Tyler, really appreciate it. Super amazing that you were here. Thank you. We have the crowd. So let's give a big hand for Cameron and Tyler, guys.
Thanks.